A story of two presidents, the U.S.-Ukraine talks. Chapter 1. Two presidents, two countries. In the year 2025, two important presidents planned to meet. One president was Donald Trump, leader of the United States of America. The other president was Volodymyr Zelensky, leader of Ukraine. The two men were very different. Donald Trump was a businessman for many years. He liked making deals. A deal is when two sides agree to give something to each other. Trump believed that every deal must bring something good for America. Volodymyr Zelensky was different. Before he became president, he was an actor on TV. He was funny and friendly. But after war started in Ukraine, Zelensky became serious. He was no longer an actor. He was a leader in a time of danger. Their countries were friends, but the friendship had problems. Ukraine was fighting a war with Russia for more than 10 years. America gave Ukraine money and weapons to help. But now, many Americans were tired of giving so much help. They asked, when will this war end? Chapter 2. An important invitation. One cold day in January, Zelensky received a letter from the White House. The letter invited him to come to Washington, D.C. "We want to talk about the future of our friendship and our work together," the letter said. It sounded friendly, but Zelensky knew the truth. This meeting would not be easy. President Trump had many questions. Zelensky knew that Trump wanted to talk about money. He wanted to know why America still needed to help Ukraine so much. Trump wanted to talk about peace too, but his idea of peace might be different from Zelensky's. Zelensky took a deep breath and said, "I must go." Chapter 3. Flying to America. On a dark February morning, Zelensky's plane landed in Washington. The sky was gray and the wind was strong. Journalists stood near the airplane. They held cameras and waited to take photos. Zelensky's wife, Olena, stayed home in Ukraine. She was worried about her husband. Traveling to America was safe, but the talks could be very difficult. Zelensky walked down the airplane stairs. He saw a big black car waiting for him. Inside the car, an American official gave him a folder. "This is Trump's plan for the talks," the man said. Zelensky opened the folder. The first line was a shock. It said, "Talk about giving Russia some Ukrainian land to make peace." Zelensky felt angry. Ukraine's land was not something to give away. Chapter 4. The First Meeting. The first meeting was inside the White House. The room was large and beautiful. Zelensky sat at the table. Suddenly, Trump walked in. He smiled and shook Zelensky's hand. "Volodymyr, good to see you," Trump said loudly. "How is the war? Everything okay?" Zelensky felt surprised. The war was very serious, but Trump spoke like it was not important. "It is difficult, Mr. President," Zelensky answered. "Every day, my people are fighting to stay free." Trump nodded. "Let's talk business." For the next hour, they talked about weapons, money, and American people's feelings. Trump asked, "When will the war end?" Zelensky said, "It will end when Russia leaves our land." Trump made a face. "What if you make a deal? Maybe give Russia Crimea. People don't care much about Crimea, right?" Zelensky's face became serious. "Crimea is Ukraine." The room became very quiet. The Chapter 5. Private Conversations. After the meeting, both presidents went to their offices. Zelensky's team felt worried. They knew Trump liked simple deals. Give something, get something. But for Ukraine, this was not simple. This was about freedom and justice. Zelensky told his team, "We must explain that this war is not about a deal. It is about what is right." At the same time, Trump's team spoke to American journalists. They said, "The president wants peace, but peace sometimes means making a deal. they said. Chapter 6. Dinner and Difficult Talks. That evening, both presidents had dinner together. They ate steak and potatoes. At first, the mood was friendly. Zelensky told stories about his life during the war. He spoke about mothers hiding with their children in basements. He talked about soldiers sleeping in the cold. Trump listened, but soon he changed the topic. Ukraine has a lot of oil and gas, Trump said. Let's talk about business deals. Maybe American companies can help. Zelensky smiled a little, but inside, he felt uncomfortable. We need investment, but Ukraine's resources belong to our people. Trump laughed. Everything can be part of a deal. Chapter 7. The Press Conference Problem. The next day, both leaders stood in front of the press. Many cameras and reporters were in the room. The first questions were easy. Both leaders spoke about friendship between the countries. Then a reporter asked, Mr. Trump, do you support Ukraine taking back Crimea and Donbass? Trump answered, if they want peace, maybe they need to be realistic. Maybe they give up a little land to get peace. Zelensky stood up. His face was red. Ukraine will never give up its land. Our soldiers died to protect it. The room became very quiet again. The press conference ended early. Chapter 8. The World Watches. The argument between Trump and Zelensky was big news. In Russia, government TV said, America is tired of Ukraine. Soon, they will stop helping. In Ukraine, people felt proud of Zelensky for defending their country. In America, Trump's team said, the president wants to help Ukraine, but only if it helps America too. Chapter 9. Thinking Alone. That night, Zelensky stood at his hotel window. He looked at the Washington Monument. He remembered the first day of the war. Explosions woke him up. He made phone calls to generals. He recorded a message for his people. He remembered visiting hospitals and hugging mothers who lost their sons. In those quiet moments, Zelensky understood. He was not a businessman. He was a protector. Chapter 10. The Final Talk. On the last day, the two presidents met alone. No cameras, no teams. Trump said, You are a brave man, Volodymyr. But America cannot fight this war forever. Zelensky replied, If America stops helping, the war will not stop. It will come closer to you. Freedom is like a small fire. If you do not protect it, it dies. Trump thought for a moment. Then he smiled. You could be a great actor in America. Maybe more famous than me. Zelensky laughed. But I am not acting now. They shook hands. It was not a perfect agreement, but it was a moment of understanding. Epilogue. Lessons from the meeting. The talks ended without a clear deal, but the world learned some important things. Freedom is not something to sell. Real friendship means honesty. Peace without justice is not real peace. And for English learners reading this story, there is one more lesson. Words have power. When you speak clearly and honestly, you can change history.